the character, what you and the writers had. But when did you sort of first see him do the Joker sort of full blast? Did he sort of, was it when he showed up on the set? Did you do rehearsals where, just in terms of the voice, the tics, the mannerisms? It's such an extraordinarily well developed.
It is.
Character.
With Heath spent months and months. We cast him before the script was even written, so he had a very long time to obsess about, think about what he's going to do, really figure it out. And I sent him some material. I sent him some. I hadn't read Clockwork Orange, is a book we talked about, more for the book than the film in a way, but for the character. Various other touchstones. I had a look at paintings of Francis Bacon kind of thing. There were a lot of different tangential things that while he was preparing fed into it. And then once he had the script, which was a very scary moment for me actually to let him read it, because he, by this time, was so committed and knew what a high wire act it was going to be. If he hadn't liked it, I think it would have been extremely difficult. It would have been very uncomfortable. But he breathed a sigh of relief, I breathed a sigh of relief. He really felt it had delivered what we talked about. And so we started talking about, okay, let's do costume fittings. Like a lot of artists, he would sneak up on something, so you couldn't really sit there and go, okay, today you're going to do the Joker. You're going to show me what it's going to be. You had to sort of say, okay, why don't we read this scene? Don't act it, we'll just read it. And then, we'd read it with Christian, and then there'd be a line or two where you just heard him doing something with his voice that was a little different, whatever, but nothing too. You throw in a little bit of a laugh, or a little bit of, but never kind of saying, okay, this is it. And then we would film hair and makeup tests, and we'd try different looks, different versions of the makeup, and in that, he'd start to move, and we'd have some rubber knives or something, pick up a knife and start to move it, to choose what weapon he would have. And we had Wally filming this test with a handheld camera, so they weren't sort of stiff tests. We'd sort of circle around and kind of let him do his thing and explore the movement, the rhythm, the character. He'd start. We weren't recording any sound, so he felt quite able to start talking and showing us what he was going to do. And in that way, he sort of sneaked up on it. And it was, as with any great performance, of showing you something very different. There are moments where you kind of go, wow, that's exactly right. There are other moments where you go, I hope this is good, because I have no idea. It's so unpredictable. I mean, the voice certainly frightened me at first because of its weird shifts in pitch. And what I came to realise, because I said to him, well, there are moments that would be very threatening, and he'd figured out this whole thing that was all based on the Alexander technique, which I'm not familiar with, but it's to do with the principle if you hit a high note, you're then able to immediately hit the sort of 2 octaves below afterwards. It's a way of lowering your voice. And so you have this character who you'd never quite know which way the pitch is going to go with the voice. And so just as in his physical movements, you don't know how he's going to move, you don't know what he's going to do with his hands. It's always a surprise. The actual tone of his voice was always a surprise too, and sometimes it would go incredibly low and threatening, and other times it was quite sing-song, almost light in a way. Really, as I started to see him perform the scenes, and the interrogation scene, which I think we're going to take a look at, that was the first scene we shot with the Joker, because I wanted to make him commit to something up front. There's always that tricky area. In fact, the first sequence we shot was the IMAX prologue, which was the bank robbery, where he had a mask on. And I think that freed him up to just enjoy that, not worry about it too much, and because the stakes were too high. And you see his physicality in that scene it's like Buster Keaton or Chaplin. So he manages to put character into every gesture. I just love what he did with it. And then there's a moment where he pulls his mask off, and which was tremendous, but it was the first time we shot with the IMAX cameras. When we looked at dailies, it was all a bit out of focus. We hadn't really kind of nailed it. So I just rescheduled, like, okay, we'll just pick that up and whatever. And I got this horrifying phone call from him, sort of, what have I done? It was the first time he'd ever kind of shown us the voice, and saying, you want to reshoot it? I'm like, no, it's great, it's exact. But he never quite believed me, I think. He reshot it very graciously because he was a tremendous professional, but you know, I think he was delighted to find out in the end they actually used the out of focus one because it was just magic, you know, he just had that little thing. And I think part of his neurosis is he wouldn't be able to reproduce that because he just hit something. And in the end, just like a, you know, a couple of technicians are going to compare it, you know, worry about it or whatever, but the performance is there. So that's what we used. The first scene of great length and depth that we did was the interrogation scene. We put it in the first week and really planned it very, very carefully and gave ourselves a lot of time to shoot it. And he was grateful for you know, having that time. But really, you know, it was shot over in England, that section of the film, and it was a very, very gruff sort of British crew. They're very, you know, they don't work on Jack Nicholson, you know, use your Joker, you know, and all that. And so they didn't quite know who this guy was, what he was doing. And after those couple of days, they were just like, you know, he's the business, as they say. They just could tell. It was going to completely.
Well, you mentioned IMAX, which I'll ask you about it a little bit later. But let's take a look now at the interrogation scene, or what might be called a scene of extraordinary rendition between the Joker and Batman.